everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of Bill Has Opinions, where we drink and we talk about random stuff. And welcome. I am, of course, Laura Lavoie, and I am joined by Bill Perkins, who has opinions. I looked down like I didn't know who I was with. I was like, who's here?
Who's our special guest? Oh, yeah.
Who's this guy? So, Bill, how are you today? How is this fine Tuesday treating you?
Howdy, partners. This should be just fine.
Excellent.
Nothing eventful this week, so that's good by me because the last 2 weeks have been kind of a mess.
Yes. So I'll take uneventful as much as possible. So, what are you drinking? What do you got there? What are we starting off the show with?
I'm starting off with some Highland Gaelic, and I'm finishing up with a Ninja Porter from ABC, Asheville Brewing Company. I guess I could have been thematic and just had a line of Bud Lights up here.
You could have. In fact, in an attempt at a joke that was only funny to me, especially considering it's a blues song, not a country song, although blues is one of the origins of country. I have myself a bourbon. I have a scotch and a beer, which is actually a Green Man ESB. And this isn't actually scotch because I don't have any scotch, so it's Irish whiskey. So the joke isn't even that funny. I just have some whiskey to drink first.
Yeah. That's okay. There's plenty of songs about whiskey. There's lots.
That is true.
I thought about that too, actually. Except for I don't really like whiskey. I like whiskey just fine. I just don't like what I feel after I drink whiskey. So I won't be drinking any.
That's fair. I have, and I do have, so I've got the Green Man ESB as my beer, but in case I don't have enough to drink, I also have this Death by Coconut from Oscar Blues.
That sounds good, yeah.
If I'm not dead by these, I will be dead by this.
Right. There you go. Yeah, that's good.
So, our show today is brought to you by Country. So we're talking country music, all things country. Bill, can you start us out with our theme for the day?
Well, all right. Well, I'm just gonna get a little yarn here about my background on the whole thing, right? Like, so growing up, I used to spend a lot of weekends with my grandparents, and I recall back in the late 70s watching Hee Haw with my grandparents. Pretty common we would do on a Saturday night and watch Hee Haw. And also my uncle would take me for long rides out in the country with a pickup truck, like down dirt roads. Like this was back when you would put a kid in the back of a pickup truck and they would just think they were having a ball. And
right.
People wouldn't judge you for it.
Yeah, before you get arrested, long before people had not even seatbelt laws at that point.
Actually, that was still when you would sit in the front seat with your mom and she'd put the arm out when she'd slam on the brakes, But anyway, my uncle would throw me in the back of the pickup. But I remember like driving around the roads in the pickup, listening to Alabama or whatever, and remember all that fondly. And then, then flash forward, like I probably gave up on country for a long, long time. Although I'll touch on briefly, the late 70s, early 80s, there was a brief flash where country music was like in pop music kind of touched for a minute.
Yes.
There were, Kenny and Dolly. That was a big hit. That was written by the Bee Gees, of course. So obvious, that they were huge. And also. Kenny Rogers, just in general, was a huge thing. I mean, I think he kind of crossed the whole threshold there. And then the Oak Ridge Boys song Elvira, I believe everybody knew that song, regardless of whether you were a country fan or not, right?
Right.
So that was a thing that happened briefly for a while, and everybody was into that stuff. And then, so flash forward, sorry, I gave up on country for a long time. I just wasn't into it. And then the summer of '93, I was home from college and I was working this construction job that summer, and I guess most of the stations that I could pick up in South Carolina were country stations. And let me tell you something though, the songs that summer were fire. Like they were just everything was good. Um, they had some good stuff. Like the writing was almost like musical quality. Like it was just all these little references to things, and it was very clever the way it was written. You may recall that was the summer that gave us your what is it? I can't remember what the actual name of the song is, but it's like "Blame It On Your Lying, Cheating, Low Dead Beating, Two Time and Double Dealing, Mean Mistreating, Loving Heart." Do you remember this song?
I do.
It was featured in a movie, I believe. There's a movie called a film called Love, I think was the name of the movie. Was that right?
That sounds right.
Yeah, which was about.
Our resident librarian might be able to tell us, but
Anyway, that movie was kind of the what was that movie? Singles. It was like the Singles, but about Nashville.
Right.
And then at the same time, I think it was also the year that whatever that movie that George Strait was in came out. When you hear twin fiddles and a steel guitar. Anyway, that was a big deal. So anyway, there were loads of good songs that summer. I just remember, I just listened to country music that whole summer. Everything was very upbeat that summer. That was the thing. There were not a lot of ballads that year. We looked at really upbeat, like 4/4, just like bangers, as you would say nowadays. But
as the kids would say.
Kids would say, I just loved everything that came out that year. So that's what that got me back into country music. And then and part of it was this. Okay, part of it was that I had spent the previous semester at art school in Chicago. And I've actually read that country music became popular in the United States when people moved to urban areas. That's when country music took off, and it was because basically country music is about a nostalgia for things lost. And so for me, as a Southern kid from a rural small town, moving to a big city up north, I think that's what kind of launched me back into liking country music, was because it felt comforting in a way. Mm-hmm. It was the stopping at Cracker Barrel for breakfast of music. Anyway, I do want to mention this one thing. I got this really great quote here I want to mention in my monologue. Sorry, I'm leaning forward because I can't read the tiny print on my computer.
You need the glasses, old man.
I need some glasses, and I'm just too vain and too broke to go get them. Anyway, this is a quote from George H.W. Bush, who the late president, who was a lot more eloquent than his son, I will say, and also probably the last sort of bipartisan, like across the aisle sort of Republican that I can recall in my lifetime. Like, dude could actually be civil to everybody, I think. Anyway, this is a quote from him about country music. He said, "Country music gives us a window on the real world. It's easy to see why America loves country music, because country music loves America." Well, I always say, like, country music it's about our successes and failures, and it kind of is about, it celebrates the regular folks, which is why it's popular, right? Like, it's about the waitress at the diner and the farmer and the person who's just busting their ass to try and get by. And I'm not saying that there are other kinds of music that examine that, but that's largely what country music is about, and that's what the appeal of it probably is. So, I'm just going to leave it there on that intro.
I like it. No, it's interesting. The difference, obviously, growing up in the Midwest, the Great Lakes area specifically, country music was, there was that 70s influence, country music, obviously, that a lot of people loved. And like during that time, Elton John recorded some basically country albums too. So it had transcended, you know, it wasn't just Southern artists, Southern American artists doing it. It was country became kind of big, you know, then you have, you know, my sister was a huge Donny Osmond fan. So of course, as a child, I constantly heard Donny and Marie's a little bit country, a little bit rock and roll, you know, and two kids from Utah singing that. Like, so it's very clear that country had a moment.
Sure.
But one of the challenges became, as country sort of evolved and became that new generation of country music that came out, at least in Michigan, it was kind of conflated with not so great personal values. So it was very much about nationalism and, you know, the racist kids listened to it. So
Right.
I actually rejected country music for a really long time for that reason, because I wasn't into that shit. So even as a teenager. So I didn't listen to a lot of it. So a lot of that generation, you know, even the Garth Brooks era and stuff, which, I mean, he certainly wasn't single-handedly controlling racism in America, but certainly several people who listened to his stuff had those leanings. So, but I didn't listen to any of that. And it wasn't until I moved to the South, and it wasn't even country music, because I'd always been into like Irish folk music. I just like Irish folk music. It's fun. It's nice. It's enjoyable. You can dance to it. And but when I moved south, I started listening to like bluegrass and the newgrass movement and the new Southern rock movement and all of that. And I'd never listened to that stuff before. And all of a sudden that's all I was listening to. And that led me in a direction that eventually got me to classic Dolly Parton, not even the 70s, 80s Dolly Parton, but like the old school Dolly Parton. And she's a fucking queen. Like, she's amazing. And even today, like, I wouldn't seek out a country artist, but I kind of got into Casey Musgraves lately because she's really good. Like, she's just a solid musician. Great songwriter, great singer. So I'm like, all right, I guess I like Casey Musgraves. Sure.
Yeah, it's funny. You mentioned Dolly for a moment. Even though I said I gave up country, I guess, between the early 80s and my teenage years, I do remember there was one when Rhinestone came out. The Dolly Parton movie that had Sylvester Stallone. So the theme song from Rhinestone was a song called Tennessee Homesick Blues. And the intro to that song is her yodeling for 5 minutes or something. And I loved that song to death. I had a 45 of that song, and I would just wear that thing out. I just played it over and over and over. And to this day, that's actually my favorite Dolly Parton song, Tennessee Homesick Blues, my number one favorite. I know a lot of people are like, you know, have real strong opinions. And I love Jolene or, you know, something else. But to me, and I know it's funny because this is one of her more commercial, like, slick kind of country songs, maybe. At the same time, it's got yodeling, so it's not that slick, right? It's kind of
right.
Something
Right. Yeah, it made you like that Jewel era where Jewel was doing all the yodeling, but she was just a, you know, sad knockoff.
Right, exactly. You know, and there have been a few of those over the years. You realize how important Dolly is when you hear the people who sort of ape her, you know, and not even like ape her in a bad way, like, because I think Alison Krauss. I hear a lot of Dolly and Alison Krauss.
Mm-hmm.
And Alison Krauss is a talented musician. I'm not trying to knock her at all. I'm just saying, you know, it's funny. My wife actually likes Alison Krauss, but doesn't particularly care for Dolly Parton's voice. And I'm always like, I don't understand how you can different. Like, there's so much Dolly and Alison Krauss. Like, it's cool that she learned to sing listening to Dolly Parton.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing about it, you know. So.
Right, and you know, it's hard to deny that kind of original sound. Like, besides Dolly, at least early women in country music. I mean, you had the what was the Carter Family Band. The Carters, you know, you had them, but then Dolly and Patsy Cline and Loretta Lynn. I mean, they were the leading ladies of country music in the very early days.
Right. That's right there. Yeah. So.
So I just can't hate on her. And I didn't know I liked her. And like today, 9 to 5 is 100% my jam. But when I was, a kid, I was like, that's stupid. But now I'm like, that's just a great song. Like you have to turn that way up.
It was that Orville episode that really sold you on it. There, right?
If it were, but as it turns out. And I mean, of course, you mentioned, Kenny and Dolly, they had that whole thing. But I do remember one of the stories my mom liked to tell, she didn't like to go see movies, and my dad liked to go see movies. And for some reason, the last movie in the theater that my mother ever went to see, and this is no joke, the woman is 81 years old now, was the Last Little Whorehouse in Texas. Is that what it's called? Best Little Whorehouse in Texas? Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. And so I remember her telling me that story when I was a little kid, and I'm like, what's a whorehouse? But I had no idea. And we actually have a whole nother show about Christmas music coming up. But one of my all-time favorite songs now, and it's a Christmas song, is Hard Candy Christmas, which is from that movie. And I had no idea.
Yeah, that is on my. It's probably in my top of the. I will say this, and we'll talk about it later in Christmas, but Christmas music, I don't like a load of Christmas music, especially not anything that's not novelty. But Hard Candy Christmas is one of the few serious Christmas songs that I actually love.
So good. Yeah, but we have a whole show on that coming up in December. So
we'll say that.
Don't worry. We'll get there. We will get there, folks. All right. So we should probably take a quick station break and then come back to the topic at hand. But I have for you guys, as I was joking before the show, apparently I'm only doing one themed item for our this. So this is a tiki mug. This is a zombie glass with cats on it. And last week I did cat swizzles, and now I've got cat mug or cat glass. And because I'm obsessed with tiki and cats, and this one comes from Horror and Clay, which is an Atlanta company. He does a lot more tiki mugs, traditional mugs, the carved mugs that are horror themed and specifically Elder Gods, Cthulhu type stuff. But this was actually, he did this recently because during the pandemic, it's easier to do a design than work with an artist to do the carving and all that sort of stuff. It just got complicated where you can just do a little design and slap it on a glass and there you go. So it's super cute and I love the cat theme. Look how cute. Wait, no, there's one. He's got a little atomic yarn ball and I just love this shit. So highly recommend if you're into tiki items. I am not just trying to get free stuff from these companies, but I will take free stuff. I will gladly accept that free stuff if you would like to send it my way. But no ad, we're not being paid for it. I just really want to pimp it because it's super awesome. So
but
that is.
Before we go back to our show, that if you do have a business and you would like to pay us to advertise for you, feel free to contact us and we'll be happy to plug whatever it is. Provided it's not racist or something like that, in which case we're going to tell you to hit the road, but
Yeah. But heck, if you want to will pimp, sex toys, whatever you need. At one point, I was actually writing for someone who did their website, their leading advertiser was weird sex toys, the alien weird sex toys. And I was so excited. I'm sending out the link. Look, I wrote this thing. And everybody's but I clicked on it and it's all sex toys. And I'm like, oh, that's just their advertisers. Sorry.
Yeah. I got nothing to do with that.
It's fine if you're at home, but if you're at work, you're like, close window.
Close it, yeah.
Sorry. Oh my God. Did not know that was going to be there. So
sure.
Anyway, country music.
Yeah.
Okay. So we were going to go, I think because we already started, let's just go with favorite country music. Let's just go straight to the top. What do we like the best?
All right.
Yeah, go.
So some of my favorites, I want to give a big shout out. Obviously, Johnny Cash. Everybody likes. This is the thing though. Johnny Cash is saying I like tacos and beer. everybody loves Johnny Cash. We get it. Like even people who don't like country music like Johnny Cash. Like they'll say, I don't like country music, but I like Johnny Cash. You know. So that goes without saying. Did I miss what the reference was to that?
So, yeah, you might have. The reference was to sex toys, that Giuliani might do a press conference in front of a sex toy shop. So, yeah, it's been a crazy week. So it's amazing.
We're gonna just have to do a current events catch up one day, but that's not this show.
It is not.
No, so Johnny Cash, obviously Willie Nelson. Everybody likes Willie pretty much because why wouldn't you like Willie? Even if you don't love his entire catalog, he's always. You can pick like 3 Willie Nelson songs that you just absolutely adore, right? For me, oh my God, "Angel Flying Too Close to the Ground" almost makes me cry when I hear it. You know, actually, it almost made me cry just thinking about it. Just now.
See, no, Willie Nelson. First of all, Willie Nelson has been the same age my entire life. So like no matter what, like Willie Nelson today is exactly the Willie Nelson that I knew growing up. I realize, and I've seen some things where he was younger, but I don't believe it. But because he's been exactly the same.
Yeah, apparently there was a time in like 1950 when he was like he had short hair and he wore a suit.
Yeah, exactly. Very briefly. But that was actually the start of the outlaw country movement, and he was one of the people that started that. So
right.
Because he's like, screw the suit. Because they would do, the sequin suits.
Yeah. I would say, okay, so
but wait, on Willie Nelson, real quick, when you said everybody has a favorite Willie Nelson song, I have a soft spot in my heart for "On the Road Again." But more importantly, that I really like Leonard Cohen as a songwriter, but I don't love him as a performer. But I love when people cover Leonard Cohen. And if you want a song that'll make you cry, Willie Nelson's version of "Bird on a Wire," amazing.
Okay.
So good.
I can dig that. Yeah. I actually bought the Willie did an album back in the early 90s rather. It's like 93-ish, I want to say. I think it was a Rick Rubin production or something like that. And he did a bunch of covers of weird songs that like you wouldn't expect Willie Nelson to do maybe at the time,
right.
There was like a Peter Gabriel song, and he actually worked with a lot of people too. Like I think Sinead O'Connor and some other people were guest stars on some songs.
Yeah, so, I remember that. He had some for sure. Some totally off the wall guys.
Sorry, it wasn't Rick Rubin that produced that album. It was Paul Simon who produced that album, now that I recall.
Yes.
Because Willie did a cover of Graceland. And it was because, Willie's son had committed suicide, and Graceland is about healing and redemption. And Paul Simon approached him with that song because he was like, I realize you're going through some shit. And this song's about going through some shit. And, anyway, that was part of it. And he did a couple of Paul Simon songs on that album, too. Actually, Willie's version of, what is it called? American Tail, maybe. I can't remember what the name of the song is. Something about America. But Willie's version of is way better than Paul's version. I will say. But that was the intent. I think Paul Simon, approached. I've got songs I wrote that I think if Willie Nelson recorded them, they would be better than what I did. And I actually think both versions of Graceland are equally good. I don't have a preference on those two. I can hear either version, and I'm like, that's a sweet ass song, But the Willie version of American Tune, thank you, Albert. That song, Willie's version of that song is preferable to Paul Simon's version to me. He just puts because Willie Nelson is kind of almost the voice of America. You know what I mean? Like that's part of it right there. He sounds like he's an everyman. He's the Han Solo of country music or music in general, really.
Right. No, I agree with that. I mean, he's had his issues, he's got his controversies. He's not without those, but and he's timeless. Like I said, he's been the same Willie Nelson my entire life, and I'm 45 years old. Like, I realize the man is very aged now, but you wouldn't know that. He's the same guy.
Yeah. It's crazy. So anyway, after Willie, I'm gonna move on from that now. George Strait, I'm gonna give a mad shout out to George. So I used to, at one point in my life, I was a purchasing agent for a factory that did some printing, and I used to call this ink company down in Texas to order ink all the time. Right? Are you on the Scotch now?
No, I'm on my fake Scotch. I'm on the Jameson's, and it's like really good. I haven't drank it in a while. It's really delicious.
One Irish, one beer. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. One bourbon, one Irish whiskey, and one beer. I haven't cracked open the beer yet.
All right. So I used to call this ink company down in Texas to order ink for the factory I worked at that did printing. And when I would call them and they put you on hold, it would always be a George Strait song. It was actually just the local country music station that was on the hold music, but it was 100% of the time it was a George Strait song. I'll tell you that. And I would sometimes the lady would come back and she'd be like, "Okay, I'm sorry for putting you on hold. Can I help you?" And I'd be like, "Can you just put me back on hold for another minute? Let me finish that George Strait song."
Nice.
I had earlier alluded to the God. What was the name of the movie now? George Strait was like a. I mean, he played a country singer. What a stretch.
I mean, like
I don't know what the movie was now, but it came out in the 90s. And anyway, he had a string of hits off of that, but he's had a huge string of hits. All of his songs, oh my God, like Amarillo by Morning, that song, oh my God, the fiddle in that. Also, this is the thing about country music. It will make you cry, I guess. That's the point of my entire love of country music. That shit will make you cry. Just hearing the fiddles in Amarillo by Morning will make me cry. Like at the beginning, I'm like, oh my God, this is such a sad song. And it's just a song about this rodeo guy who the only thing he's got going for him is going to the rodeo. He's already lost every relationship he's ever had. He's got no possessions to his name. All he's got to look forward to is going to the rodeo and hoping that he can hang on for 8 seconds, you know?
Yeah, I mean that's a story that gets you right in the heart.
I don't even know anything about riding a horse at the rodeo for 8 seconds.
It doesn't matter. You don't have to.
No, right. So it's crazy that actually gets you, you know, but it does because you can get the rest of it. I mean, that's the thing. The country music is about the loss, right? It's about all the things you lost that you're pining for, kind of.
Right, because that's the joke, right? What do you get when you play a country song backwards?
Yeah, but I mean, everybody can relate to that because everybody at some point loses, right? Like everybody's got a thing that they're pining for that they can't have, and that's what country music speaks to in a way. So after George Strait, I'm going to jump ahead here. Sawyer Brown was one of my 90s things that I was into when I got into country music in the 90s. Sawyer Brown was a weird anomaly. They were a band that actually got popular because they were on what was that show that used to come on? It was like the precursor to American Idol. It had Ed McMahon.
Star Search.
Yeah, it was
Star Search.
Well, Sawyer Brown actually won Star Search one year, which is an interesting way to start your career, I think. But they had some really great songs for a couple of years there, especially like I said in the early 90s. They were so good. The one I particularly love is this one called "Some Girls Do," and this guy's basically talking about how he's kind of a dirtbag, and most girls don't find him attractive, but some girls do.
Right.
And I just thought, I don't know why. It's some of the songs in country music are about being proud to be poor or be, or whatever, like I don't have much to show for me, but I'm an okay guy, right. I think that's a sentiment that I think resonates with the fans of country music. So that was a thing I found hearing Kelly Pickler. She won
American Idol.
Idol, right? so that was how she started her career. And I like Kelly Pickler. And also, didn't Carrie Underwood start on one of those?
She won. She won one year. Yeah.
And
Which launched, I think, launched a new renaissance of modern country because suddenly it was super popular. Like it wasn't just, it was just all levels of popular at that point.
Right, because you were on national television as a country singer, and you got fans that weren't just country fans. Like, I mean, who the hell didn't like Before He Cheats? Like everybody heard that song, right? Am I right?
Right.
Like that song was universally popular. And I liked it too. I mean, I wasn't particularly into country at that point in my life even, but I remember I could sing that song now. I've actually sang that song at karaoke before. Because sometimes I get a kick out of going up and singing a female song at karaoke just to mess around with people, But Before He Cheats is a really great song. Blake Shelton. What is, Albert, since you brought up Blake Shelton, what does Blake Shelton sing? Because I'm familiar with the name, but I don't know I can't pinpoint anything right now.
I cannot at all. I know he's really, really popular. There are songs that I know I would know by him.
Right.
Like I know that they're his, but I couldn't pick them out of a lineup.
That's why I'm asking, because I'm like, I've heard the name. I know he's famous, but he's no Dirk Bentley, so I couldn't tell you what he said.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I mentioned, so my two top, I dig the girls. Like, you give me some just kick-ass lady power, and I'm in for it. Because Dolly Parton, hands down my favorite, love the woman. Plus, she's an amazing person, right? Like, she does charity stuff, and it's insane, the amount of stuff she does. And for me, she didn't have children, so she does all this stuff just out of the kindness of her heart, and I love her for it. She's like a child-free queen. I'm totally in love with her. Wait, we got a comment coming in from Albert here. Apparently, the song is "The More I Drink" is the one he likes.
I'm not familiar with that.
Either that, or Albert is just telling us that he's drinking. The more he drinks, the funnier we are, which is true.
That's true. That is true.
It's just a fact of life, people. Fact of life. That's all it is.
I want to mention one thing about Dolly. There was a thing going around in the last 6 months or so. I think it was back when there was the rash of tearing down Confederate statues, and we were like, can we just all agree that we could put up statues of Dolly Parton everywhere, and everybody could get behind that? Like, it doesn't matter whether you're liberal or conservative or southern or northern or whatever. If we put up,
she's a gay icon. Like, the drag community freaking loves her.
Yeah, everybody can agree that Dolly Parton is the best. She's the best of what humanity has to offer. Am I right?
She's really, like 100%. I cannot agree with that more.
I mean, she opened Dollywood because she wanted to offer employment opportunities in her county that she grew up in. That's the whole reason. She didn't open a amusement park with her name on it because she was trying to make herself feel good about herself. She did that 100% to offer employment to the citizens of Sevier County.
Yep,
Sevier, I don't know how you pronounce
it. County. Either way, it doesn't matter. It's like Leicester versus Leicester.
She built the hospital in Sevier County.
Mm-hmm.
She has a charity that now, is it nationwide now? I can't remember. But we're providing books. Mm-hmm. Books to early childhood. Like, if you're poor and you don't have books in the home, there's been these studies that say if you grow up in a home with books that you're and to that end, she was like, hey, we're going to put books in everybody's house.
Yep, absolutely. She did that. And that is nationwide. You can just, if you have a child under the age of whatever, like 5, I don't know. I don't know how old children are. They confuse me. But so if you have a child that's under the age of whatever threshold, you can just sign up and you get this. It's called the Imagination Library, I think, or something like that. Yeah. And it's amazing.
It's like Sweet Pickles, but free.
Exactly. And she, like a few years ago when Eastern Tennessee and Western North Carolina had a ton of wildfires, like insane amount of wildfires. People were losing their homes everywhere. She single-handedly paid for individuals to rebuild. Like, she just dumped a shit ton of money into Sevilla and said, like, here you go.
Another story about the kindness of Dolly Parton, then we're going to move on to Dolly Parton. Okay, we can do a whole show about Dolly Parton, but
we really could.
So, she got her start on the Porter Wagoner show, right?
Yes.
And when she left the Porter Wagoner show, he was broken up. I think because he realized that she was like what was bringing in the viewers, right? Like the Porter Wagoner show was done without Dolly Parton.
Yes.
And so he pulled a lawsuit out because of contractual issues, like basically like you signed on to do this, and so he sued her. And I don't remember whether or not he won the lawsuit, but anyway, years later, well, first off, so the song "I Will Always Love You" she wrote as a goodbye to Porter Wagoner.
Yes,
because she felt that way about him, like not that she loved him like a husband, but she felt like he gave her start, and she would always love him. And years later, Porter Wagoner was in some trouble with the feds, I think, over like mismanagement, not paying his taxes or something like that. And Dolly Parton, even after he had sued her, after this dude had sued her, she came in and she cleared the slate. She paid off his debt to the federal government.
Yeah.
That's the kind of person.
She's a badass. That's because she's a badass. So,
right.
Like you said, we could do a whole show on Dolly Parton. Dolly Parton, if you're listening,
come on our show.
We love you. So come and be a guest on our show. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
I would seriously die. Like, you would see me on the show, like it would be our little heads, and then Dolly Parton, I would just be like, I'm fucking dead. Fucking dead. That would be that.
Yeah.
So, because I would just be dumbstruck because she's amazing. Anyway, as Heather says, Johnny Cash, because she's late to the show. As you said, everybody loves Johnny Cash. And The Devil Went Down to Georgia, right? A popular show. So country music can be cool. You are correct, Heather.
Yes. Although I will point out The Devil Went Down to Georgia is technically Southern rock. But we'll put that in the bag of, because earlier I discussed how there was like a lot of crossover in the late 70s, early 80s.
Yes. I call that country adjacent. And I think there's a few country adjacent categories. Sure. Which
Lynyrd Skynyrd is not country. However, everybody who likes country also likes Lynyrd Skynyrd.
Right. And there's some like bluegrass, which is the newer bluegrass movement, Americana. Like those are heavily country influenced musical styles. So
moving
and rockabilly.
I've talked about a lot of the country artists I really like. I'm going to talk about my personal favorite, Conway Twitty. Conway Twitty, as you may recall, was the gag of a joke on Family Guy for many years.
Yes.
Whenever Peter Griffin was trying to avoid talking about a subject, he'd be like, "Ladies and gentlemen, Conway Twitty," and they'd show a flashback to a clip from Hee Haw or something.
Right.
Where Conway would sing a song. And the funny part about that gag was they let the entire song play. It wasn't even like half the song. Like they would play the entire song in its entirety, which I have to give it up. Like I was like, okay. But here's the thing. Before Family Guy, I was already a Conway Twitty fan. I've always been a Conway Twitty fan. I actually remember him from when the first airing of Hee Haw. And I loved his songs because this was back when my riding around in the back of the pickup truck with my uncle days. Particularly the song "Tight Fitting Jeans," which was a early '80s hit for Conway. Conway Twitty's got a very deep voice. I'm not exactly sure if I don't think he's a bass. Maybe he's a bass. I don't know. I think he's a deep tenor. I want to. I can't remember. I think baritone in between tenor and bass. I think that's right.
I don't know. I can tell you every female range of vocals, but the menfolk, I have no idea.
Baritone is the one in between bass and tenor, and I think that's what Conway is probably. Sorry, there's a fire engine coming in the street.
Emergency!
Yeah, there it goes.
Right there, I see the lights too.
Yeah. Speaking of the Fireman, I want to say was another hit was that George Strait? I think it was George Strait that had a hit with Fireman. back in 1982.
Great segue there. Good job using the tools you have.
Yeah, but anyway, Conway Twitty. The thing I love about Conway, he's like the country Barry White. So all his songs are about getting it on, in a manner of speaking. But with country music, it's not just like, hey, let's fuck. It's like it's like very subtle. It's got this. But my favorite song by Conway Twitty is this song called "Lay You Down," which I guess isn't terribly subtle, really. But the way he says things, the way he says.
Everybody loves the sirens. Like, we should have the sirens on as a guest every week.
Yeah, people love that. Okay, that's a good gimmick. We're adding that now.
Yeah, sirens.
Special. Anyway, Conway Twitty's got this song called "Lay You Down," and my favorite line in it is he's got this. One of the verses is he's talking about. And he starts off, he's talking about how much he loves his woman, and I don't care how you look. Like, I see you in your robe, wearing your hair up in curlers, and I still want to lay you down. But then the third verse, he says, when we're old and gray, I can't remember exactly how it's put, but at some point he says, if I can, I know that I'd still love to lay you down. And that's the part that, like, kills me.
But basically, also, it's super sexy, but it's so sweet.
It's sweet, but it's also, if I can still get it up, I will fuck you.
Just drop me that Viagra. I'm good to go.
This was way before Viagra existed. So it was a potentiality of there could be a point in our life when I can't get it up. But if I can, know this, that I will want to lay you down, you know?
Check this out, lady.
Here comes another fire truck. Sorry, guys.
There's an emergency. There's a country music emergency happening in Salida.
I didn't even know we had 2 fire trucks, to be honest. I didn't think. I thought our volunteer fire department had 1 fire truck.
That's fair. I grew up. My aunt grew up in a small town in Michigan, or lived in a small town in Michigan. We used to go visit her all the time. And it wasn't even just a small town, like it was a 2-town coalition. And it was the Croswell Lexington Volunteer Fire Department. And my cousin, I guess my cousin's husband, so he was my cousin-in-law, I guess. He was a volunteer fireman, and then he was the mayor. So like they only had 1 truck. And if it was 4th of July, that truck was in the parade. And if there was an emergency, nothing's happening.
I've often wondered, we don't have the week after 4th of July, we have a thing here called Coon Dog Day. This is kind of peripherally related to country music because it's a small rural town. To speak to the audience, I live in a town of about 800 people. It's a tiny little town. We don't even have a stoplight in this town, okay? We have a volunteer fire department, and during the Coon Dog Day parade, it doesn't get more country than that.
No, it does not.
Parade, which is not anything racist. It's dogs that tree raccoons.
That's true.
During the Coon Dog Day parade, all the fire, not just our fire department, but every rural fire department in a 2-county area is in our parade. Right. And I always wonder, what the hell happens if a house catches on fire during this parade?
I used to wonder that because we would go every year to this parade in Lexington, Michigan. Not even Lexington, Kentucky, or anything cool like that. Lexington, Michigan, and like every year we would go to this parade for 4th of July, and I would see the fire truck with my cousin Paul on it, and be like, "What? I don't understand how this is gonna work. There better not be a fire."
Right. That's the perfect time for arsonists to go to work. It's during the parade, right?
Yeah, no, Heather's written a new song, a new country song that you need to work on Coon Dog Day Parade for sure.
I will definitely work on Coon Dog Day Parade.
And it really is the most country thing ever. Like that, and that's peak Western Carolina too. Like you're Western Carolina, but nearly South Carolina, so it's peak Western Carolina, and that's PEAK, as in the top of the mountain. It is peak Western Carolina.
That was Grammar Corner.
That was Grammar Corner. Actually, I thought of another one, but I will save it until later because there's a common grammar mistake we're all making all the time. So stay tuned.
That's great.
At a later date.
I'm about done talking about Conway. I want to move on. My next favorite country singer, Dwight Yoakam. Dwight Yoakam. So in 1993, after I got back into country music, then I had some like weird sort of stuff because I was also in art school. I liked country music, but I was in art school in Chicago, and I was trying. So Dwight Yoakam kind of scratches both itches because Dwight Yoakam is a popular country music artist, and actually up until the early 90s, he was a pop country artist. Like he'd actually been played on the radio, but somewhere around the early 90s, he kind of like sort of segued out. Like he became like an alternative country artist. And yes. I want to break off and talk about that in a minute about alternative country, like things that aren't really country, but are sort of country. But also, I also really got into the Cowboy Junkies from Canada. That was another one of the, like my sort of alternative country bands that I really got into. I loved the heck out of that. I can't remember what the album was called, but they had this song called Misguided Angel that just, again, will make you cry if you listen to it.
Yes. If nobody else knows them, their biggest hit was Sweet Jane, which is
a great song that they did a cover of, but they did a country version, and it was really great. That was on the same album, yeah. But I love their version of Sweet Jane, but they had a song on the same album called Misguided Angel, and that song will just bring you to fucking tears, right? Like it's basically kind of a teenage love story. It's about this girl who's in love with this guy that everybody in her family's like, oh, that guy's shit. You know, he's horrible. You shouldn't be with him. And you know, she's like, but he's sweet to me. You know, like I know y'all think he's a horrible person because he's trash or whatever, but he's good to me, and that's all that really fucking matters. And that is all that really fucking matters in a relationship. Is that he's good to you, you know? It doesn't matter what he's like to other people. He or she, whomever. But anyway, yeah, Dwight Yoakam, the thing about Dwight Yoakam is he's a traditionalist stylistically. I feel like he's almost old country. He's Johnny Cash and Elvis rolled together.
Yeah.
However, thematically, he's open-minded. He's a cool dude. You know what I mean? Like I don't know if you remember this, but he was actually on the episode of Ellen where she came out.
Yeah, I mean, I do remember that.
Yeah. he's a cool dude who's like, you know what I mean? Like he's open-minded and he's a cool guy, but he's also he's very like, let's make country music. And I don't know, but at the same time, I have to say that I say that, but then at the same time, he's done some really great covers of songs that aren't country songs. My favorite version, honest to God, I love Cheap Trick, okay, but Dwight Yoakam's version of "I Want You to Want Me" is my favorite version of that fucking song. That's the one I do at karaoke. If I do "I Want You to Want Me," I do the Dwight Yoakam version, not the Cheap Trick version. And well, honest to God, I can't even sing the Cheap Trick version anymore without slipping into a twang.
Right.
Because A, because I have a twang, and B, because
also that,
but also because I just hear the Dwight Yoakam version in my head, and that's what I want to do. But his version of "Crazy Little Thing Called Love" by Queen,
yeah,
he's done some really great like covers of rock songs. He did a cover of "Purple Rain" after Prince died.
True. But some of those songs you've mentioned, like I would say. Want You to Want Me and Crazy Little Thing Called Love, those were rock songs that had a significant country influence.
Absolutely. Well, definitely Crazy Little Thing is a rockabilly song, right?
It's a rockabilly song, 100%.
And before I get too far into that, I want to mention, because, you know, we've mentioned once or twice maybe. But
we also can't get too far into it because we're almost done with the show. So.
Okay, well, I won't go too far aside. I just wanted to mention, because we've talked about maybe once or twice, but I'm in a band also. And my band started out to be a surf rock / rockabilly band. And I've actually written 2 or 3 country tunes in that band. And the reason is because country and rockabilly are the same shit to me. Like I just, it worked for me thematically. Like, honestly, I don't know how the band felt about it. Whether they were like, "Oh shit, we're going in this direction," okay, but I mean, I know for one song I wrote, it's a country song that we play. I fucking like it. It started out as a gag, and it wound up being one of my favorite songs that we've written. And I know at least me and Jimmy both love it. I don't know the rest of the band, but
your drummer slash guitarist slash other singer would like you to sing it now. You don't have to, but if you want to, you can.
I can sing one verse.
Well, maybe that might have to be a later show because we are running out of time.
Okay, he loved it.
But also, your drummer slash guitarist slash singer, he loved it. So
awesome.
Yay.
Good to know. But anyway, yeah, I didn't start to write country songs, but because we were a rockabilly slash surf band, and we're not anything anymore. We just jump all over the place genre wise. And genres, well, I will say in this day and age are kind of meaningless, even though we're talking about country. The reason we're going to talk about genres is because it's a way for us to break this out and talk about music kind of in little pieces. However, while I'm talking about Dwight Yoakam, I just want to mention Buck Owens, who was a big influence on Dwight Yoakam. And I got into Buck Owens because of Dwight Yoakam. But then in retrospect, like I've gone back and examined Buck Owens' catalog. Buck Owens is really great. He was a California artist who's got kind of a little different sound than the Nashville sound. Yeah. And it's kind of similar to one of Laura's favorite songwriters, I would say Mike Nesmith of the Monkees, who is a singer-songwriter. But he's kind of got like a country rock thing going. But I feel like his stuff in Dwight Yoakam, not his stuff and Buck Owens stuff reminds me a lot. Like they're very similar stylistically, I would say. Yeah,
100%. And Mike Nesmith in the Monkees, like he joined the band as a legit musician, not just an actor, pretty face kind of guy. Like part of his deal with them was that he would be able to produce some of his own music. And it's very clear the songs that are Mike Nesmith songs. Like when you listen to old Monkees, like it's very country. And that was my shit. That was my jam when I was a kid. Right. So, like, I guess I really have always had that sort of country leaning, or I guess you could say like that folk Americana leaning, like because all of those things are related, Like, Thank God I'm a Country Boy was the whitest, folkiest artist in the world in John Denver, but I fucking love that shit. Like, that's amazing.
Right. John Denver was from Germany. We have to remind folks that he's not an American. He was from Germany. However, he came here and he just had an affinity for this country. I mean, he changed his name to Denver, for God's sakes, He wrote a song about Rocky Mountains in West Virginia. Like, like you would not know to listen to him that guy was from Germany, but he's, and I'll give it up for him too. Actually, I love John Denver. That's some good stuff. I don't really know if I would call it pure country. It's more like folk.
No, it's folk Americana folk. Like,
But beautiful stuff, really. Let's see what else. So I talked about Dwight Yoakam, and additionally to Dwight Yoakam and the Cowboy Junkies, I also liked K.D. Lang, and I really like Neko Case. Neko Case is probably one of my favorite country artists who's not a country artist, really. Like she sings in the style of country, but I don't know that like Nashville doesn't accept her as a country artist, really, or whatever.
No.
But goddamn, Neko Case, she's got this one song. I'm gonna throw this out there. Guys, there's a song called That Teenage Feeling by Neko Case you got to listen to. And it's about that teenage feeling.
Albert would like to call out your experience with John Denver. I agree with Albert. He was American, but he was of German descent.
Oh, is that it? I thought he actually was. Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, was he like German because he was born in Germany on an Air Force base or something? Is that the deal?
Oh, maybe that could be part of it.
I thought he was actually like his real name was like Hans something or other, and he was German, and he changed
his real name is John Dusseldorf or something like that. Yeah, it's fully German, but that's why he changed it because that's not a folk rock.
That's not a country name. That doesn't sound country. I'm gonna be John Denver.
You gotta go Denver with that shit. So we are running out of time, but you mentioned, I know, but there's too much. but the alt country, I think that the rockabilly, the Americana, the new Southern rock, the new grass, I think that's, for me, that's where the style has taken us. Like, that's what I like.
Yeah. I'm with you. Loads of people love Wilco. I don't actually love Wilco, and I don't love Ryan Adams either. But if you do, that's cool. I'm not going to shit all over it. They don't appeal to me.
But similar artists are like Band of Horses, or
Sure.
I mean, I hate to say it, but Old Crow Medicine Show. Even though in North Carolina they are persona non grata, but that's what they
Darius
do.
Rucker.
Darius Rucker. And an artist that I do encourage everybody to go listen to is Sarah Jarosz. She is Americana, new folk. She is freaking amazing. The woman can play anything, and she's just amazed. She's got an incredible voice, so definitely check her out. Jason Isbell is another famous favorite of mine.
The Honeycutters are a local Asheville band. The Honeycutters. They actually play here at the Purple Onion when the Purple Onion has live music. Oh my God, I love the Honeycutters. A very good band to listen to. You should check that out.
As Albert tells us, actually, John Denver was born in Roswell, New Mexico.
What?
So,
so alien. I get it.
Very German. He's an alien. That's what. And when he died in that unfortunate plane crash, he was just taken back to the mother planet. Clearly what happened. So, all right. And hey, I real quick want to plug one other song by one other band before we close it out. There's a band, I think they're from North Carolina, called Keller Williams. And it's not just a real estate agency, although it sounds like it. But Keller Williams is a new grass kind of country folky band. Exactly. But they do a cover of a song from one of my very, very favorite artists, Mike Doughty, called American Car. And it is like their version. Mike Doughty is a great performer. He's a great singer. He's all that. But this version of American Car is so good, and y'all should check it out for sure. All right.
Also, I want to say that
we are at 3 minutes, and we have to go.
Okay. Real quick, the Dixie Chicks were doing wrong. Now let's do something else.
All right. I'm with you. I'm 100% with you on that. Completely agree. Although they're just the Chicks now, which is actually good on them. So.
Sure, but still, they were done wrong. They were
still done wrong. They were ahead of the curve before they changed their name.
Right. Yeah.
So, all right. I do want to say real quick before we close out this situation and go to our closing ceremonies, as it were. If you do want to learn more about the history of country, check out the Ken Burns, the guy that makes all the documentary, Ken Burns documentary, the history of country music. It is amazing, and it goes from the very beginnings of Appalachian folk music up through just post 90s. It doesn't go much further than that, but it's well worth watching, and it's really, really, really good. So totally check that out when you have a chance. All right. So I do have, Bill, I have a mailbag question for us.
Oh, wow.
I know. People are writing in. I'm so excited. Keep the BT-Dubs, keep the emails coming. You can message us on Facebook. You can email us, whatever you want. But this question is, Bill, is a hot dog a sandwich?
I'd say yes. A hot dog is a sandwich. I think anything with bread and something else is a sandwich. I got in an argument with a friend recently about whether pizza was an open-faced sandwich, and it totally is. So, we can do a whole show about that, about what is a sandwich if you want to in the future. But
in the future, I will put that on the list.
A hot dog is totally a sandwich, yes.
I think a hot dog is a category of sandwich, but
right, sure, yeah.
Yeah, it's a category of sandwich. That's fair.
You can put it out in different sandwich types, but a hot dog is one of them.
Fair enough. We could do a whole episode on sandwiches. Jotting that down for January. Totally going to do that. All right. Things that are extra. Bill Perkins, you have a things that are extra this week.
Oh my God! So I got a new car recently in the last 2 weeks here, and I'm driving along on Saturday, and the damn TPMS light comes on. Beep beep beep. and I hate the TPMS light. It's the worst idea ever. Okay, maybe if you've got a Mercedes Benz, and when the TPMS light comes on, it tells you specifically which tire is a little bit flat. Like I don't. If you're not going to tell me which tire is a little bit flat, I don't. You know, like 2% of the air has gone out of like one tire, and I'm supposed to fucking play a guessing game now. That for nothing. I've got a light on my dashboard that I have to guess about. Wonderful. That's great. You can't even. Here's the thing. You can't even hook up the little computer thing to it, like you can. Like if the engine light comes on, you hook up the computer to it, and it says you've got code P30 or whatever, and you go look that up, and it says, oh, it's because you didn't screw your gas cap back on. And you're like, oh, goddamn, that stupid thing again. You know, and you screw the gas cap on, and it goes away. With this TPMS light though, it says one of your 4 tires is a little tiny bit flat. Deal with it. That's what it's like. Like it puts the glasses on and it says deal with it, and I'm like, just like tell me or don't tell me. I don't care about this vagary. Like I didn't need to know.
So here's the thing about that, right? It knows to tell us that the tire pressure is low. It knows that. It is smart enough to tell us which tire it is and how much.
But it doesn't tell you.
It does not. It can.
I could. I was telling because my son asked me, what's that noise? Because he was in the car with me. And I said, oh, it's a TPMS sensor. And he was like, and then I went on this rant about it. And he was like, could it not tell you which tire? And I was like, well, it could if I bought a more expensive vehicle, probably. Like I'm sure people with Mercedes, it probably tells you tire number 4 is 2% flat. You know, and you're like, oh, and I'll have Jeeves look into that or whatever.
Yeah.
You know,
no, ours does it too. We have a 2013 Nissan Juke, and it will once in a while be like tire is low pressure, and I'm like, just tell me which fucking one, because I get out of the car, I look at all 4 of them, and they look fine.
Yeah, you look around at them all, and they all look the same. And I actually went to Harbor Freight today and bought myself a new tire gauge. Mm-hmm. And sometime this week I will actually get out and I'll look at all 4 of them, and I'll find out which one is like a single PSI off, and I will deal with it. But
exactly.
What a pain in the ass.
They're probably making money on tire gauges, because I never in my life owned a tire gauge before having that. Because now I'm like, well, which tire is it? So I have to go and I have to figure it out. Like before, it would be like, oh, that tire's flat. Okay, good.
Yeah. I like when they're obviously flat. Like you walk out in the morning and one of them's flat. You go, okay, the tire's not good.
I'm not going anywhere today. That's fair enough. All right, we are done with the show. As sad as we are to part ways with all of you, but that is how it is. So, Bill, can you take us away?
Well. Looks like we locked up or something, maybe. I don't know.
Nope, you're there. I see you.
Okay. Sorry, you locked out for a minute. Anyway, I just want to say before we go that Bill Has Opinions is engineered and produced by Laura Lavoie. The opinions of Bill are those of his and his alone, except for the ones that Laura shakes her head in agreement to, and vice versa. And they're not necessarily the opinions of our sponsors who don't pay us, because they're not really sponsors. We just like the things we like, and we said, hey, go buy this thing. Yeah, so be sure to like and subscribe and save it and all that stuff. I don't know, like whatever format you're watching us on, follow us and leave some feedback and send us some emails and whatever. We'll talk to you next week. We'll have a new show about something different if you hated country music.
We will. Actually, the next couple of weeks, I would like to point out, next week we're spanning the holidays with holiday specials. So from Halloween to Christmas, we're going to talk about all of it. So prepare. And then we've got our Thanksgiving dinner episode. And then after that, on December 1st, is our holiday beer, our winter beer episode. So get your beers in time for that.
Yes.
All right. We will see you all next week. Thank you for watching.
Y'all come back now. You hear me?